All right, 146. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Schilling Show. 977-1070 is the phone number, and we do have some callers who'd like to speak to our guest Bill Redpath, who's a Libertarian candidate for United States Senate here in Virginia. And let us go over now to say hello to Spencer on line number 1. Spencer, thanks for calling the Schilling Show. It's been too long, and we're very glad to have you with us. Do you have a question or comment for our guest, Bill Redpath?
Well, I haven't taken my tux to the dry cleaners yet for January 20th, so I would love, mind you, I would love to work in the Barr administration, but I'm afraid, barring a major miracle, that either Obama or McCain will be elected. That said, I think Bob Barr will probably set a record. I'm very hopeful. I think it's highly likely that Bob Barr will set a record for number of votes and highest vote percentage in the popular vote for a Libertarian presidential nominee. Beyond that, I'm not going to make any predictions.
Hey, Spencer, in case you missed it, Bob Barr was on the Schilling Show yesterday, and you can go to the all-new WINA.com and check out the podcast if you get a chance. You want to hear the interview with Bob Barr right here on the Schilling Show. It was an interesting 15 minutes or so we spent with him. We're still working on that one, but keep those calls and letters coming into management. Tell them you need more of the Schilling Show, a little more nutrition for your mind. Thank you very much, and thanks for calling the Schilling Show. All right, there he goes. And let us head over now. That leaves a line open for you at 977-1070, 977-1070. If you have a comment or question for our guest, Bill Redpath, let's go to Gary, who's on line number 2. Hello, Gary.
Yes, I mean, I think that both of them stand for big government as far as I'm concerned. I don't see that much of a difference between the two of them, and I have certainly heard the debates that they've had, and it basically comes down to more in the way of government solutions. The Libertarian Party is the only political party in the United States that consistently stands for individual liberty and responsibility, is willing to cut the size of government, is willing to cut taxes and going to be able to cut taxes non-trivially, and it's the only party that I think truly respects civil liberties. I mean, I would have a lot more respect for the Democratic Party if I thought you could count on them when it came to civil liberties, but I don't think you can count on them for that any more than you can count on the Republicans to defend economic freedom in any principled way. Certainly John McCain doesn't do that in the debates. I don't really hear any, or extremely few Republicans do that anyway. So the one thing that the Libertarian Party stands for is for minimizing coercion, both in the economic realm and in people's personal lives. We are consistent in that. And that is the core difference between us and the Republicans and Democrats. Thank you, Gary.
And Gary, thank you very much for the call. 977-1070 is the phone number. That will leave a line open for you. And Tom is on line number 1. Tom, thanks for calling the Schilling Show, and you're on with Bill.
Well, I think that's essentially correct. I mean, taxation is going to raise the cost of things. I mean, take the corporate income tax. When I was in business school and I studied taxation, I was told at the time, and I think it's still the case, with the corporate income tax, that nobody knows who really pays it. And it's probably a combination of the employees who take lower wages, the customers who have to pay higher prices, and shareholders who have to take less in the way of dividends. But at the end of the day, you don't know who actually pays the tax. And I think when you don't know who is actually paying a tax, it's a bad tax. People pay taxes, businesses don't. So that's why I think the corporate income tax, frankly, ought to be eliminated. It's a faulty tax in that way. But taxation serves as an economic disincentive. What we need right now is more production and more people who are attracted to the energy industry. It is people who actually know something about geology and know something about energy generation that is going to solve the energy problem, not people in Congress who know next to nothing about it. Well, one other thing, if I could just say that historically, going back a few decades, the return on equity for investment in oil companies has been below average for all industries. I'm pretty sure about that. So if you take the long-run historical perspective of return on equity, the oil companies haven't had it that great going back several decades.
And Tom, I would just add, and I agree with what Bill is saying, is that when did America become all about punishing success and increasing taxes because people were making too much money and therefore we need to punish them and take some of that money away. I've often said in these conversations privately when people are complaining about oil companies or insurance companies making too much money that, you know, their shares are publicly available, and if you want to share in that success, put some of your money aside and go buy some stock in the companies and you can get wealthy along with them. But this idea that we have to punish people because they're making too much money is insanity, and I think the Founding Fathers are spinning in their graves when they hear that. Let's go over to line number 2 and talk to Bill. Hello, Bill. Thanks for calling the Schilling Show.
I think the fair tax is something that we need to take a look at. I'm actually suggesting a flat tax, which, according to its developers, Professors Hall and Rabushka, is actually a sophisticated consumption tax. What I would say we should do is that, well, first of all, to have a fair tax and not come out of it with all the other taxes we have and a retail sales tax, we would have to repeal the 16th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which would be a multi-year process, frankly, a long and difficult process. What I would say is that, at least in the short run, we ought to go to a flat tax, and then let's get there, which would be a huge improvement over the current system. Lower marginal tax rates, we definitely need that to incentivize people to save, to encourage entrepreneurship. You know, Obama wants to junk up the tax code. His idea of a tax cut is putting a whole bunch of politically correct deductions and credits into the tax system, which is not what we need. We need to simplify it, lower tax rates for the economic health and the prosperity of this nation.
Thank you so much for the call, Bill, and we're quickly winding up our time together. Bill Redpath, again, let's tell people where you'll be speaking tonight and what time.
I will be speaking again at UVA, Newcomb Hall, the South Meeting Room at 7 p.m. Everyone is welcome and encouraged to attend.
Terrific. Thank you so much for joining us. I do encourage people to learn more about your candidacy at redpath2008.com, and we encourage people, again, to go tonight if they are available. This is a free and open event to the public, and I think you've got a lot of interesting things to say. Thanks for joining us here on the Schilling Show.
Rob, thank you for having me.
All right, we'll do it again. News Radio 1070 WINA, that is going to wrap it up for us today. Remember, tomorrow, the coming undermining of the middle class, Joan Vion is going to be with us to talk about the bailout and her opinion, the kind of worldview of what's going on here and what this bailout was really all about and what it means to the future of America. Don't forget Rob S. at WINA.com. I'd love to hear from you if you have comments on today's show or anything else that you'd like to share with me. Please keep me in your email loop. Love to hear from you. All right, we'll see you soon on the Schilling Show.